18 minutes. That's how long a poisoned VS Code extension was live on the official marketplace before it was pulled. 18 minutes was all it took for a threat actor to steal credentials off a GitHub employee's machine and walk out the door with 3,800 of GitHub's internal repositories. And here's the kicker to the whole thing is this wasn't some nation state, 0-day, any kind of thing like that. No novel exploit, no obscure attack chain. It was an auto-updating VS Code extension, something millions of developers rely on every single day. So today, we're gonna break down exactly what happened, what it means for you, and talk about self-hosted Git alternatives that have been kicking up a real momentum lately. Because an incident like this is forcing a conversation that's been around for a long time, and it's starting to get more and more traction. Howdy folks, Zack Perry back here with 45 Home Lab. And quick housekeeping before we dive in. A huge chunk of you watching aren't subscribed yet. If you're into self-hosting, home lab builds, and keeping control of your own infrastructure, hit that subscribe and notification bell so you don't miss the next one that's coming next. And another thing, big milestone, we just hit 10K subscribers, which is crazy. Joe and I have been doing this for just a little bit over a year, went from 800-900 subscribers all the way here, but that's just me bragging a little bit, but thank you so much for subscribing and tuning in. Again, I say this every time to my ramblings, whether they're here or there or everywhere. But without further ado, let's get into the whole GitHub situation. So what actually happened? We know GitHub was breached, but how big of an attack was it? So let's walk through that attack chain because this is one worth understanding in detail, not just, simple headlines. So on May 11th, with a group called TeamPCP, also tracked as UNC 6780 or UNC 6780 by security researchers, they hit TanStack, popular collection of open source JavaScript developer tools, through CI/CD misconfiguration and OIDC token theft. Within 6 minutes, they published 84 malicious package versions across 42 packages. And these weren't random, they were targeted to harvest developer credentials from machines that installed them. And from that TanStack breach, they got access to a contributor's credentials for the NX project. And the team behind NX Console, a VS Code extension with over 2.2 million installs, used for managing mono repos. Won't get into detail what those are, but on May 18th at 12:36, they pushed the NX Console version 18.95 to VS Code Marketplace. The version contained a credential stealer buried in the extension's main JavaScript file and went up without triggering a manual approval from the NX admins. That was live for 18 minutes. In that window, at least one GitHub employee, that's all it took, had the extension either already installed and auto-updated or freshly installed. The payload harvested credentials silently, GitHub tokens, 1Password, vault contents, AWS credentials, NPM tokens, and notably, Anthropic Claude Code configurations. The attacker's explicit instructions told the malware, do not use sudo. Keep it entirely within normal user permissions so EDR tools wouldn't flag it. Now, with the GitHub employees' credentials in hand, TeamPCP cloned approximately 3,800 of GitHub's private internal repositories. So then on May 20th, GitHub's CISO confirmed that the breach said 3,800 repositories. The figure was directionally consistent with their ongoing investigation. They listed the data for sale on a cybercrime forum for 50 grand. Now, GitHub wasn't the only one hit. OpenAI, Grafana were also confirmed victims of this same attack campaign. This whole thing has been named the Mini Shai-Hulud. Again, apologies for pronunciation, but whole thing with all these different vulnerabilities across these different packages, it is crazy. And then all the way up to May 27th is kind of where we're at now. But there was also a separate critical vulnerability as well. So TeamPCP, that breach, big headline. I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't mention that the month before, this happened with security firm Wiz. They responsibly disclosed CVE 2026-3854, a critical remote execution vulnerability in GitHub's infrastructure. So the short version, any authenticated GitHub user could execute arbitrary code in GitHub's backend servers using nothing more than standard git command. Now, on github.com, Wiz confirmed that shared storage nodes hosting millions of public and private repos from other users and organizations were accessible through this flaw. Now, the good news is that GitHub patched it in under 2 hours. GHES patches were released across all supported versions, and the forensic investigation found no evidence of exploitation before disclosure. This one was caught and closed cleanly. But in the span of about 6 weeks, GitHub had a critical RCE patched, a supply chain that compromised their internal code base, and a conversation starting in the open source community about whether GitHub is still a platform that's serious work should run on. And that's a rough stretch for any platform to kind of have a large conversation around, but should you be worried about this? So let's be honest about what this was and what it wasn't. So GitHub's current assessment is that the breach was confirmed to their own, or sorry, not confirmed, confined to their internal corporate estate. Customer repositories, enterprise accounts, and user data were not affected. This wasn't a breach of GitHub.com's hosting infrastructure. TeamPCP got into GitHub's internal development repositories, not yours. That said, there are two things worth thinking about if you're a developer or homelabber. If you had NX Console installed and it auto-updated on May 18th between 12:36 and 12:48 UTC, check your credentials, rotate your GitHub tokens, check for unusual activity on your AWS and NPM accounts. The NX team released a clean version, 18.100.0, and later make sure that you are on that if you use that. Now, the more important thing to internalize, the attack surface wasn't GitHub servers, it was a developer's laptop. Your code hosted on GitHub is only as safe as the credentials on the machines that have access, and that's true no matter where you host really. So while your personal repos are almost certainly fine, the attack method poisoned tooling that bypasses EDR by staying within normal permissions. It's something every developer and HomeLab sysadmin should have in their mental model going forwards. So before the breach, Mitchell Hashimoto, GitHub user number 1299, creator of Vagrant and Terraform, someone who has logged into GitHub nearly every single day for 18 years, announced he was pulling Ghost TTY, his 50K star terminal emulator, off GitHub. His exact words were that he wanted to ship software and it doesn't want me to ship software. So Zig, another thing, moved to Codeberg in November 2025. Serenity OS moved before that. And when someone like Hashimoto, a true believer who's been in GitHub's ecosystem since the early days, starts shopping for a new home, that's not just noise. And the alternatives have gotten genuinely good. Not just good enough for a solo hobbyist, actually good. Which brings me to the part of this video you're probably here for, self-hosted Git alternatives. So let's talk about three. There are many, many more. These are just three that I either have used a little bit or that are getting a lot of popularity recently. So if you're thinking about owning your Git infrastructure, I'm not going to tell you to ditch GitHub tomorrow. That's not realistic for most people. But if you're running a home lab, there is a real case for at least mirroring your critical repos locally or running a private instance for personal projects. First one is Gitea. Again, I feel like I'm pronouncing that one wrong. Gitea is the one most people are familiar with. It started off as a fork of GOGS back in 2016 and has grown to be a full GitHub-like Forge. It has container registry, package registry, SSH access, and GitHub actions similar to GitHub. So what stands out about Gitea? It's written in Go, it ships as a single static binary, no dependencies, runs comfortably on modest hardware, 512 megs of RAM, it can handle personal or small team instance. GitHub actions, compatible CI means that your existing workflow YAML files carry over with minimal changes. Built-in migration tooling to import repos from GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket, and so that way they're not a painful migration. Now, the one thing worth knowing, Gitea Limited, now CommitGo Inc., is a for-profit company, and the governance around the project shifted in 2022 in a way that led a community fork, which brings us to Forgejo. Back in 2022, they wanted a project to stay genuinely community governed. It's steered by Codeberg e.V., a nonprofit registered in Germany, which gives it a different flavor from a trust standpoint, especially for anyone in the EU or anyone paying attention to the broader who controls the open source tools I depend on question. Feature-wise, Forgejo and Gitea are highly compatible. They share the same database schema and API. At the core, so migrating between them is pretty straightforward. Forgejo also ships with Forgejo Actions, the same GitHub Actions compatible CI system, and it has been investing more aggressively in federation via ActivityPub, though that's still experimental. Now, for most homelabbers in 2026, Forgejo tends to be the recommended default, specifically because the governance is more transparent and the security patches move through faster, community process, and you're not depending on a for-profit entity's roadmap priorities. And then the last one, this is Probably the one that I've heard the most about, at least over the years, is GitLab CE. It's the self-hosted heavyweight. If Gitea and Forgejo are a single binary tool you can spin up in 10 minutes, GitLab is a full DevOps platform, and it brings a lot of stuff with it. So with GitLab CE, genuinely shines in a few categories. It has that built-in CI/CD, mature, feature-rich, well-documented, and this is kind of GitLab's core strength. That container registry, package registry, dependency scanning, and security dashboards are built into the platform. So if you're running something that looks more like a small organization than a personal lab, team permissions, compliance requirements, audit logs, GitLab CE has that infrastructure already baked in. So the honest trade-off is GitLab CE wants real hardware, so kind of looking at a minimum of 4 gigs. 2 years ago, that might not have been big thing, but ideally 8 gig plus. So anything resembling a real workload, it's a monolith, and that's strength for teams, and it's cost for solo homelabber. So on a HomeLab 15, dedicated VM. Now mind you, you can spec this out and be able to run GitLab CE and a whole bunch of other things, Proxmox, what have you, all on the HL15. You want some extra room for a graphics card full length. We have our HL15 Beast. But let's talk about the comparison a little bit more. All right, so here's the simple decision framework. Again, we do these quite a bit, but they are by no means the be-all, end-all. So Gitea, if you want feature-rich GitHub clone with actions, package registry, polished UI, you're finding Gitea limited as the upstream steward, has solid enterprise features if you ever need SAML. Forgejo, same feature set as Gitea, community governed, GPL license, faster security responses, EU stewardship for most homelabbers. This is the better pick for 2026. GitLab CE, if you want a full DevOps platform, not just Git hosting, you have the hardware to run it, you're managing a team or a small org, not just a personal lab. And quick mention for GOGS, the grandparent of both Gitea and Forgejo. If you want the absolute minimum Git server imaginable, GOGS still runs on practically nothing and does the job, but it's stripped down intentionally, no actions, no package registry, just repos, issues, and pull requests. Now let's talk about actually running this in your home lab. So all 3 main options that I discussed, Gitea, Forgejo, and GitLab CE, deploy cleanly via Docker Compose. All 3 are also in the Unraid Community App Store if that's your primary container host. So if you want something like that, we do also have the X15 running that natively. But a few things that are worth noting here and think through before you commit to a self-hosted Git setup. Backups are on you. GitHub's durability and geo-redundancy, they're baked in. Self-hosted means you're responsible for making sure your repos are actually backed up, ideally off-site. So PBS or any S3 compatible target works well here. Reverse proxy with proper TLS, so put this behind Traffic, Nginx Proxy Manager. Don't expose a raw HTTP Git instance to the internet, please. Disable public registration if it's a private instance. Both Gitea and Forgejo have self-registration on by default. Turn it off or you'll have strangers creating accounts. Hopefully you're a little bit more locked down. Mirroring is a valid middle ground. You don't have to fully leave GitHub. Both Gitea and Forgejo can mirror repos from GitHub automatically, so you keep the social layer there, and you have a local backup that you actually control. Now the part I'm sure you're all here for, my take, the most important part, I'm kidding. But I'm not telling you to delete your GitHub account. GitHub has network effects that self-hosted tools can't replicate. Issues, pull requests from the community, GitHub action, integrations, the whole ecosystem for open source projects you want people to find and contribute to. GitHub is still where that happens and where I foresee it happening for still the foreseeable future. But for your private repos, your home lab configs, your personal projects, your scripts, infrastructure as code, the case for self-hosting is pretty strong. Gitea and Forgejo will run on hardware you already have. The setup is not complicated. You're not depending on a platform's internal security posture for things that are yours, and there's a lot of documentation on them and a large community presence. The bigger lesson from all this, from this whole breach, isn't GitHub bad, but mind you, some people still going to say GitHub bad because Microsoft, blah, blah, blah. Not going to get into that. But it still has those developer workflows. That's still huge. It lives on endpoints, not just platforms, but an 18-minute window was enough. 18 minutes between a poisoned update and a credential harvest that hit one of the most security-conscious organizations on Earth. Take that with a grain of salt. I know some people will disagree. If you're not thinking about where your developer tokens live, whether your VS Code extensions, auto update, and what an attacker could reach from your laptop, this is a good moment to start looking at, open source alternatives. And my personal pick for a self-hosted Git instance is Forgejo. It's lightweight, community governed, easy Docker Compose deploy, and it plays nice with the rest of the self-hosted stack. Trapped front, Pertainer, or Arcane, which we covered in another video, managing it, Proxmox backup server, or to a local S3 instance. In closing, that is GitHub, the GitHub breach, what it actually means, and where self-hosted Git stands in 2026. So let me know in those comments down below, are you self-hosting Git already? Are you mirroring to a local instance, or is GitHub still doing everything for you? And is this whole conversation just kind of moot? I generally want to know where the community kind of stands on this one here. If there's interest, I can do a full hands-on follow-up, spinning up Forgejo from scratch, configuring SSH, setting up the runner for CI, and mirroring a GitHub repo to it. Drop a comment if that's something you want to watch, or Gitea, or anything else really. Use something else entirely. If you want to see everything that we have on offer, head on over to store.45homelab.com. We now have financing available in the US, so you can build out that home lab without doing it all in one shot. Our socials and links to everything that we talked about today are linked down in the description below. If this helped, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. See ya. Me fumbling my own take? Never, I would never do that. Let's try that again. I generally want to know where the HomeLab community stands on this. One thing I just want to know, I wonder how many times I do this in the run of a video. I didn't record. No, I'm just kidding.
No, don't say that.